In this world of technology, things are ever changing, rearranging. You need someone to help you out. I know someone who can. Come and take a journey with me as we go through the land of technology. You'll never be alone. You'll be with Paul Amadeus Lane in the Tech Zone.
Welcome back. Tech Zone, second segment of the show. We are going to talk about education this segment of the show. And when education kind of shifts what we plan to do to what we in reality going to do, many of us have went to college to study a number of things. But when you get out of college, you may realize, or while you're in college, you may realize that, hey, I want to shift my focus to this. And your parents are like, why are you doing that? I know a lot of people like that. Yeah. But I wanted to introduce you to a bright young mind when it comes to gaming development. I invited him on to share his story of how he got into the video game development industry and some of the awesome games that he has been able to produce with his team. And I'm so happy to have with me right now this, I call him a gaming innovator out there and what they're doing at their studios, Grover Wimberly the Fourth. Grover, what's going on? How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Wim Entertainment Studios. Man, that's awesome. When did you know you wanted to do this?
I've wanted to be in the video game industry since I was a little kid, and I went to college for computer science to become. Originally I wanted to become a game programmer, and then there's a lot of things in the game industry about AAA game development and stuff, and people burning out. I was like, during my senior year, I was like, maybe that's not what I wanted to do. I kind of wanted to go more into independent game development. So me and two friends of mine from high school, we formed a company and for making indie games. So Wim Indie. So
nice.
Wim Indie, short for Wim Independent Studios.
I love it. And talk about going to school for computer science and then transitioning into doing something like this. You talked about it, being something that you wanted to do when you were younger. Which game kind of got you to say, you know what, if I created this game, I would do this, I would do that. What was the game that kind of opened your eyes to it?
Final Fantasy IX. That was my first Final Fantasy was Final Fantasy VII, and that really got me hooked into RPGs. I've also played Lufia and Breath of Fire for the Super Nintendo and for the PlayStation. But it was really Final Fantasy. I was like, I wish I could make something like this. You've seen those stunning visuals, you see the innovative gameplay between each different title in the series, and I was like, yeah, I want to do something like this. And starting off, I made a bunch of crappy games that I'm really ashamed to talk about. But when I started Wim Indie, I started with a game. I was like, yeah, this is kind of what my vision of my perfect game would be like.
And Grover, looking at this journey that you're on and that you started, when it comes to being an independent gaming development studio, we know that there's certain freedoms that you offer yourself because this is your studio and you can do it. You talked about AAA games. Mm-hmm. What is something that you're able to do with the freedom that maybe if you worked for a AAA studio that you wouldn't be able to do?
Well, in a AAA studio, a lot of everybody's working under the creative director, right? So you'll have your animator who has to do their portion of the assembly line. Then you have the programmer who has to code from specifications from higher ups, and then you have different people working together to create a cohesive whole, but it's what the company wants to do, not what they want to do. And there seems to be in the industry between AAA developers who envy the indies that, oh hey, they get to do whatever they want to do, they're kind of just going gung-ho. And then there's the indies that are jealous of the AAA. They're like, oh, I wish I had the stability and the money and all that kind of stuff. So it's when you go indie, you're kind of sacrificing you're sacrificing the money, I guess, from being paid to develop games to like, it's all me, and if people don't like that game, that's a reflection of me. Do you understand what I mean by that?
Absolutely, yeah. It's kind of like, you have like ones who may do a podcast, and like for myself working for an ABC radio affiliate, there's certain things that I'm able to the comforts that I'm able to have, but on the other side, some ones who are independent can do whatever they want to do, and vice versa. Those who do an independent podcast are like, they wish they have the stability, but the creativity and everything. But one thing I like about indie studios now is we're seeing a lot of indie studios get the backing of some of the majors. I know what happened at E3 this past year when Phil Spencer talked about the exclusive with I think he talked about the partnership with 1,000. I'm just joking. I'm only playing independent studios. It was Phil Spencer. We were this. We were that.
We bought Ninja Theory. We bought. Yeah.
Yes.
That worries me a lot though, because Microsoft in the past they've been when they would buy out companies, they would I don't want to say they ruined them, but when they bought out Rare from Nintendo back in the early 2000s, Rare was never the same. Before, when Rare was under Nintendo's direction and not Microsoft's direction, you had constant hits. You had Donkey Kong Country, you had Banjo-Kazooie, you had GoldenEye 007, you had Conker's Bad Fur Day, and ever since they were bought out by Microsoft. Microsoft kind of, I don't know what they do, but they tend to just kind of maybe have too much oversight on what they acquire, and it kind of runs them into the ground. And Rare kind of came back out of it with Sea of Thieves, so I'm cautiously optimistic of what they're going to do with all of the studios that they bought out.
Definitely, no, that definitely makes sense, because they have to answer the shareholders, the board of directors, and everything. And if they want a certain direction, they have to go that way. You bring up a very, very good point. Now let's talk about the first game you guys created over at the studio. Talk about that experience, and was there ever a time when it was like, I don't think this is going to come out, guys. I think we are wasting our time. Did you guys ever have that? Take us through the journey.
Okay, yeah. So, I want to ask about your question. The first game we released or the first game we worked on? Because the first game we released was not the first game we worked on.
Well, let's talk about the first game you worked on, because I definitely want to hear how you guys grew from that.
Okay, sure. So the first game we worked on is called Celatria, and that's kind of the main game we've been working under the studio label. We started that in 2011, and it's still ongoing. However, due to the scope of the game, we split it into two different parts, and we released the first part on Steam in 2016. As I mentioned earlier, I had my background in computer science, but I did not really have a background in project management, and I definitely did not have a background in making art. So two of our biggest problems were kind of getting the voices, coordinating with the voice actors, making sure that the voice actors, when we sent them the lines, that they matched the script. We had to also make sure that the art, we had a big problem at the beginning when our art, didn't really have a cohesive art style, and it was a turnoff to a lot of people from first impressions of the game. It looked like it was badly put together just based off of the visuals, how they didn't match with one another. So we had gotten an artist from DigiPen up in Washington. She had recently moved to California, and we had gotten her to kind of make the art style consistent, and we implemented some standards to be able to have a kind of a production pipeline going. Me getting a day job in the software industry kind of helped with that too, because I kind of saw how they manage software development with milestones and tasks and sprints, and I also implemented that with the studio. And ever since then, so it took about maybe from our start in 2011 to 2013, 2014, it took maybe, two years to kind of get a full production pipeline going to where we were comfortable with the progress that was being made. And then from 2014 to 2016, it was 2 years to release part one. Nice. And we're aiming for part two in 2019.
That is awesome. So when you start to develop a game or have the concept to put a game together, what is the first thing you have to tackle first? Because for someone who's not in the development background, I've worked on accessible gaming development, but not in, getting a game from scratch to, to production to distribution. What comes first?
Okay, so the very first thing one should have is called a GDD, a game design document. That's what we do here. Now, for Celatria, I started that back on my last year of college. It started off as a college project. So the game design document was pretty much whatever the college game programming syllabus was. Like what did I need to be able to get an A at that time, right? But that has since expanded to be, what are the characters? You have to outline your you have to outline the story, the characters, the levels, the art requirements, the budgets, the sound. All of that should be. It doesn't need to be perfect. The game design document doesn't need to be perfect, but you want at least some kind of blueprint there so the whole team has something to go off of. And then from there, you turn it into tasks and sprints and milestones, and then you get to work. You reach out to the different people that you need to reach out to, or if you're a solo developer, you just do it all yourself. But in our studio, we prefer to work in a team, so I delegate who needs to do what, and then I help out and design where I feel like my skills would be most useful.
And one of the things that really blows me away when it comes to gaming development and everything, because I remember gaming on Super NES and Sega, and it's just the quality of voice actors now. I mean, you have a full dialogue where ones are having just discussion. You're starting to see cinematography just unfolds and everything.
Right.
Talk about getting the right mix of talent with the project. Is that a challenge sometimes?
Okay, so first of all, I don't want to take credit for that because my friend, and he's actually the voice actor of Mage, his name is Jabari Smith. He did a lot of work in finding most of the talent and setting up the auditions and getting people in. He did most of that. I do know some of the sites he went through. At the beginning, we used the site called Voice Acting Alliance, and that had a lot of voice actors that are kind of starting out and they were kind of in the same boat as we are. Like, we were starting off in the game development world and they were starting off in the voice acting world. So it was like, hey, do you want to work on this game we're starting off with? He's like, oh yeah, that's awesome. This would be my first project ever, So we had people audition. Jabari put the auditions together and he edited them together. And then, me and the other developers and artists, we took a listen to it and voted on who we think would be the actor that would fit. And then that's how we got most of the talent. Now, one thing I feel like I messed up on when doing that was we got our voice talent way too early in the pipeline. I mentioned earlier that we started the game development in 2011. We had started casting people at the end of 2011,
Gotcha.
and that gap of time between the end of 2011 and 2016 when we released it, to the voice actors that were, I'm constantly sending them lines throughout the years, and there's this thing of, is this game ever going to be finished, and what's taking so long? Whereas if I started the game now knowing what I did then, I probably would have saved the casting until the very end when we had all the scripts completely written out. That way they can do that. So I really have to give a shout out to Jabari and all the voice actors with the project. They've been very patient with us and sticking with it and being patient with me and getting everything done over the years.
No, and I'm glad you shared that with us because me, I've done voice acting before, and I know the challenging behind everything to get everything done, and just to see where we're at today and hearing the story of the journey with the company is like, I'm glad that you're sharing it with us. Now, the games that you have out now, how did you feel the first time someone downloaded it, or when someone first gave you the feedback, besides friends and family, but the first person that's like, hey, this is pretty cool? How did that make you feel, Grover?
It made me feel great because it's kind of like that. It's always a bad thing to say you always want validation from somebody else, but it's always nice to say somebody like, oh, this reminds me of this game that I played. And I had mentioned earlier when I said Lufia was one of my inspirations, and when I saw one of the first Steam reviews that said, hey, this reminds me of Lufia 1 and 2, I almost broke down, because that's kind of the experience I was going for, and I'm glad they really got that out of it, where they got the sense of, of the similar type of gameplay that inspired me as a kid.
Nice. And the games that you guys have out now, let's talk about them and get to people playing them. So let's start with your favorite game first that you guys produced, and please let the audience know about that game.
Sure. So Celatria it's a role-playing game very inspired off of Final Fantasy, Chrono Trigger, Lufia, Breath of Fire, etc. It's about two main characters, Mage and Melanie, and they're from the town of Avelia, and it's kind of a city of where they teach magic, sorcery, how to be a knight, that kind of thing. And so Mage, who's the main character, he's kind of a slacker. He's a dropout. He's on the verge of dropping out, I should say. And then his best friend Melanie, who's a knight, she's the top of her class. So Mage is assigned to go to this nearby cave, and for his last resort for class credit before graduation. If he wants any chance of graduating, he's got to get through this. So Melanie kind of sneaks along with him, so to try to make sure he passes. And when they come back from their exam, they find out that the town is under attack from an empire from across the sea. So most of the game is spent on trying to figure out, well, who are these people that are attacking? Why are they attacking? And trying to find friends and stuff to try to find out this mystery.
Nice. I like that. I'm gonna have to get down with that now. Now that's one that you can play it on PC and mobile devices. Is that right?
Just PC for now,
okay.
But I don't want to rule out mobile devices in the future. One reason why we were trying to figure out the mobile situation is because of the voice acting. We have almost 2 gigs of data worth of voices, and we're not sure how we would be able to get that to fit in a mobile game. But maybe look for something in the future. I can't make any promises.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. You said the challenges of being a studio head, right?
Right. I don't want anybody to play the mobile game and feel like they're being cheated out of something by not having voices and stuff. And that's kind of our biggest hurdle that we're trying to overcome. And one thing I've learned from other people in interviews is that don't promise anything until you can actually demonstrate it, especially with other games that have where people they make all these promises and they can't keep them. So
well said.
If I do come up with something, I will be sure to let people know.
That'll work. Now let's talk about the other game. What other title do you guys have out there?
Sure. So we're working on one game. I'll talk about that a little later. But we've released also a mobile game called Antics, and that is for mobile. It is for mobile and for touchscreen PCs. So you have think of this: you have a stack of candy on the middle of the screen, and you have bugs trying to get to the candy, and you use your fingers to tap the bugs to stop them from getting your candy. If you lose your candy, the game is over. So it sounds simple at first, but you also have bees that are crossing the screen. You can't touch the bees, otherwise you'll get stung. There's also they start swarming later on, so it becomes really, really, really chaotic. And then you also have other power-ups, like you can blow up bugs with firecrackers. You can distract them with sugar cubes, or use the magnifying glass to set them on fire. It kind of sounds brutal now I think about it, but it's actually a really cute game.
Awesome. It sounds cool, and I can see kids really loving that, and us adults loving it too. That's cool. I'm going to have to download that. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, when we demonstrate our games at things at Level Up Expo or other conventions, kids always love playing Antics. They kind of they're tapping the screen and all that stuff. And Celatria is more for the teen crowd, so people 13, 15 or older, or who grew up with old school RPGs. So there's kind of a difference in there's a difference in audience there.
That sounds good. And what game are you working on now? You can share with
Sure.
some updates and maybe some spoilers.
No spoilers. So there's a game we're working on. It's called the Dastardly Dairy Debacle. It actually started off as a student project by some two programmers at Cal State, and they applied it to us for an internship. And they brought their game, and they're like, "Hey, would you guys like to develop this project?" So it's like, okay. It was kind of a challenge for us because we've never taken somebody else's project before and saw it to the end. So yeah, it's a student project, but we saw it to the end with a professional team, if that makes sense. So it's kind of a mobile RPG, but it's in a different vein than Celatria. It's all about you have 4 party members, and you tap enemies on the screen to be able to level up and get experience points. And then there's bosses where you tap abilities and you can use different magic spells. But it's more of I want to say it's a mobile touch action RPG. That's how I would say it.
Now, is that one available now?
It'll be available this summer. We're trying to figure out some bugs and some issues. But yeah, it should be available this summer.
Nice. Giving props out there to Cal State University San Bernardino. The Yotes. Yes.
Most of our team came from Cal State San Bernardino. So our artists, we've had several artists that come from there. We've had several programmers, voice actors. We've done casting for Celatria. We put up notices at Cal State and gotten some actors from there. So yeah, we get a lot of talent from there, and the professors there are in contact with us for internships and whatnot. So we have a really good relationship with them.
That's cool. We got to get Lacey Kendall to do some voice acting. That'd be pretty cool. My old mentor Lacey, I think she'd be a good feeling we'll get her to do that. But so Grover, tell me, how can ones find out more information about the company, about the games? What's the best way they can do that?
Our website is www.wimindie.com. All of our links to our games are there. Celatria, we also have a URL, www.celatria.com. I don't know if I can maybe provide you some links and you can put them in the description.
Awesome. Yeah, we can definitely do that. We'll show off your website at the end too, so ones can definitely check it out. And anything else?
Yeah, we're also on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, celatria.tumblr.com. And itch.io, Steam. All those links will be in the description.
Awesome. That sounds good. Anything else you'd like to articulate out there to the viewer and the listener out there? Maybe we didn't cover in the interview that you'd like to talk about now. Sure.
So I know that there's a lot of game developers that are recent graduates, and they have there's a gap between the end of the university and the beginning of AAA getting a job, right? If you're in the Inland Empire area or the Las Vegas area and you feel like you want to do an internship or need extra experience, feel free to reach out to us on our website or through our social media. We have internships open all the time. They count for class credit. If you can get us in contact with a local professor, I want to help the community be able to expand on their knowledge. If they want to get in the game, people want to get in the game industry, we want to help out with that as well. So
nice, good way to pay it forward. Absolutely, that's definitely the way we want to do things. Grover Wimberly the fourth, founder, producer, director.
Yeah.
Wim Indie in the house. So is there going to be a fifth iteration of Grover in the future, or what? Are you gonna stop at 4?
I get asked that a lot, and I don't have an answer to that question right now. How about that? That's probably the best way to do it.
Well, when you do, you have to do some breaking news, and we'll talk about it. All right?
Yeah, it's just I'm so busy with this. I do a lot of traveling between Nevada and California to be able to get this to happen. So, anything like that would take away from being able to do that. So I need to be at a life stage where that can happen, and that probably won't be for a little while.
Absolutely. You'll be like me after 22 years or so, still don't have one. So that's it. I'm fine with it because I'm a busy man. I got to do what I got to do. I got a niece and nephew.
Exactly.
Yeah, got a niece and nephew, and I love them to death, cousins and everything. So I'll just adopt them. That's what I'll do.
There you go. There you go.
Well, great talking to you, my friend.
All right. Thank you.
One of his members of his team is Jessica Hakwende. You might remember Jessica when I was on TV. Jessica co-hosted the TV show with me. She also was one of our floor directors, camera persons, all-around great person. Love Jessica to death. We live in the same city. Always great to connect with her. Jessica, thank you so much for putting me in contact with Grover and being able to share his story. Go check out the games. You have the link. You have the site. Go do it. Snap to it. Hey, we're going to snap to a break right now. When we get back, how a father's love for his special needs child led him to become a tech entrepreneur, and how it's helping not only his beautiful daughter Paige, but others as well.
In this world of technology, things are ever changing, rearranging. You need someone to help you out. I know someone who can. Come and take a journey with me as we go through the land of technology. You'll never be alone. You'll be with Paul Amadeus Lane in the tech zone.